Alright, hello, McFluffy52 here, bringing you some more Brothers War action. And today, I'm bringing you a deck that I call Naya Party. Now, I made one version of this deck, and I started recording a video on it, and then it didn't, it worked. We won, several matches, and then we lost, 4 matches in a row, and I was trying to end on, a win. And I was afterwards, I was okay, well, let's think about the weaknesses. I was doing the end of the video recap, what would I might change about the deck, and I made those changes. And I was okay, let's try this deck out again, and I feel like this deck plays significantly better than the version before it, and for one or two main reasons, but we'll go through those. This deck was mainly built around this card here, Baird, Argivian Recruiter. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, I'm just gonna call it Baird, which is a legendary Boros, 1 red, 1 white. At the beginning of your end step, you control a creature with power greater than its base power. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Now, we like tokens. We like going wide in this deck because, well, we have a few things that benefit us when we go wide. And so we want a lot of ways to trigger Baird. And so we have a lot of +1/+1 counter synergies. We have artifact synergies, and we have going wide synergies. That's kind of the Naya Party theme, if you will. So Baird wants to have creatures sort of modified, if you will, with +1/+1s, and then also wants us to go wide. So going wide, in terms of answers for helping us get rewarded for going wide, we have one copy of Jetmir here, which is an amazing card from the Cabaretti family in New Capenna. 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, and it says creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. So that's going to happen most of the times we play Jetmir. So just a really good card in general for 4 mana. It's a 5/4, but it's going to turn into a 6/4 because creatures you control get +1/+0. So really good card. Just playing it out there, and maybe not even having the widest board. But then we get rewarded as we go wider. So if we control 6 creatures, we also get an additional +1/+0, and our creatures have trample. And then if we control 9 or more creatures, our creatures get +1/+0 and have double strike. So really good reward for going wide. Works really well with Baird in that regard. Now, we also have one new card from Brothers War, Titania's Command. I think this is a really good card with several different modes that work well, but there's 2 modes that we're mainly focused on in terms of going wide. It's going to cost us 4 generic, 2 green, and the modes that work well with going wide are the last 2. So create 2 2/2 bear creature tokens. So this can help us go even wider, and then put 2 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. The nice thing is when you choose those 2 options, the bears will be created first before the 2/2 counters are put on. So you get 2 4/4 bears if we choose these 2 modes. And then the other 2 modes are pretty good for solving other issues. So the first mode, exile target player's graveyard. You gain 1 life for each card exiled that way. That's great for gaining life and dealing with graveyard problems. So think of a Haughty Djinn. If we're able to resolve this against Haughty Djinn, that Haughty Djinn's power is going to be 0. Because there's going to be no spells in their graveyard. And then the second one is search your library for 2 land cards. Important to note that this card says land cards. It doesn't say 2 basics. So you could potentially search up very important lands. So the combo, if you have some sort of land combo, think of obviously Titania wants Argoth. So you could search up Argoth if you're playing a sort of Titania deck. This card, mainly choosing those last 2 modes, the bears, the +1/+1s, pumping our entire board by 2 +1/+1 counters. Really really good reward for going so wide. Now, in terms of other ways to trigger Baird, we have Iron Apprentice here, which is 1 generic mana, enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. It's a 0/0, so this is really good because we just play it. It's immediately fulfills Baird's condition to create soldier tokens, so that's nice. Now we also have Yotian Frontliner. Here's 1 generic. It says whenever it attacks, another creature you control gets +1/+1 1 until end of turn. So if we attack in with Yotian Frontliner, that will cause a creature to be modified, triggering Baird's condition. Now, we also have Teething Wurmlet here, which is one of my favorite rares from Brothers War, because it keeps growing bigger for whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, and it can gain us a bunch of life. So it's 1 green, and it says, it has Death Touch as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, and then whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life, and if this is the first time it resolved this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Teething Wurmlet. So this allows us to keep growing Teething Wurmlet and gaining life, and this will trigger Baird as soon as we get a single artifact onto the battlefield. We have a lot of artifacts here. We got Argivian Apprentice, Yotian Frontliner, Citizen's Crowbar, Simian Simulacrum, and then we're also going to have the treasure counters created by Gallagrators. Now, Gallagrators works really well with the going wide strategy, also works well for filling Baird and Teething Wurmlet's conditions. So it says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that has been chosen. So we can put a +1/+1 counter on it to fulfill Baird's conditions or whatever, to trigger Baird. And then we can also, each turn when we play a creature or a creature enters the battlefield, we can create a tapped treasure token to gain the life and put a +1/+1 counter on Teething Wurmlet, because important to note, it says whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, not when you cast an artifact. So, and then in terms of our other 2 drops, we have Citizen's Crowbar, which says when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white citizen creature token, and then attach Citizen's Crowbar to it. That equipped creature gets +1/+1, and then we can also sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is our artifact enchantment removal in this deck. Now, this is good because it immediately gives a creature higher than its base power, because it gives the citizen that it immediately attaches to +1/+1. So this triggers Baird. It's also an artifact enter the battlefield. It triggers Teething Wurmlet. Also, as a creature entering the battlefield, it trigger Gallagrators. Now, the one thing it won't trigger, which is kind of sad, is Argivian Beastcaller. This card is good for +1/+1 counter synergies, because similar to Iron Apprentice, whenever it dies, it can redistribute or give other creatures its +1/+1 counters. So it says whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Argivian Beastcaller, and then Argivian Beastcaller dies, distribute X +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. This is a little bit different than Iron Apprentice, because it says just target creature. It doesn't say distribute, but yeah, again, if Iron Apprentice dies, you can distribute those counters. I don't know if I mentioned that at the beginning, but that is why we have Argivian Beastcaller in here, is because as soon as we cast a creature spell, it will trigger Baird's higher than base power, which works well. And then something that also works well with all 3 of these cards is Simian Simulacrum. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. This is from Brothers War. It also can be unearthed. It's 3 generic mana, which is nice because we were playing a tricolor deck. We might not have particular lands, but we can put these +1/+1 counters pretty comfortably on Iron Apprentice or Argivian Beastcaller, because if they die, we get to put those counters back onto another creature, so there's not much loss to that. And then we can unearth it. This is also an artifact which triggers Teething Wurmlet. It also modifies a creature, so Baird will be triggered. And then in terms of other going wide strategies, we have Ginny Fey, Jetmir second. Whenever a token is created, we may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or instead create 3/1 green dog creatures tokens with vigilance. So this kind of works pretty well with Gallagrators in some regards, because Gallagrator says one of the options is create a tapped treasure token, so we can create a tapped creature token instead. That triggers Alliance again, and so we can choose 2 things for Gallagrators every single turn pretty easily that way. Though it is also a bit of a non-bow if we're trying to ramp with Gallagrators, because then we can't create those treasure tokens, we can't create those artifacts that trigger Teething Wurmlet. So we only have 1 copy of in here. It's also a legendary, so drawing more than one of them can be a bit of a problem. Speaking of 1 copies, we also have 1 copy of Adeline Resplendent Cathar, 1 generic, 2 white. So this is maybe a bit harder to cast sometimes, but it says pass power and toughness equal to the number of creatures we control, as vigilance. And then whenever we attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that is tapped and attacking that player, planeswalker, that they control. So this allows us to create even more creatures and gives us a really big creature if we end up going wide. Now, one problem that we experienced in our previous version of this deck is we don't really have a whole ton of card draw. And so this can lead us to going out of gas or maybe not drawing into those big finishers that we want. And so to solve that problem, we have 3 copies of Welcoming Vampire. I only had 3 copies of them. Maybe you want to put in another. But this card is really nice because it says it's a 2 generic 1 white flying 2/3 vampire. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So we can't get it a bunch of times each turn, but basically all of our creatures are power 2 or less. This is power 2 or less, 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 power 2 or less. This one depends. This one's not. But that's basically all of our cards that are creatures besides like 2 or 3 of them. So it's a pretty good option for card draw, and it's also flying, so we can kind of sneak in damage there, because honestly, I think flying is really, really strong in the current meta, because not a lot of people have answers to flyers besides kill spells. So if we can get our opponent to waste a removal on here, maybe we get Baird to stick around, or Baird to stick around and keep going off, or maybe they won't have a spell to cast on Jetmir when we get off. Now, in terms of other kind of card draw effects, or effects that work well for replenishing our board if it gets sweeped or if it gets dealt with, we have Kayla's Reconstruction. It says look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to X artifacts and or creature cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and then put the rest in or at the bottom of your library in a random order. So this card works really well with this deck because, well, all of our cards besides 3 of them are 3 or less mana, and they're all artifacts and or creatures. So this can help us to really rebuild our board. It's honestly one of my favorite cards from Brothers War, because it's just so fun to see, like, maybe it's just the kind of lottery mechanic of like, are we going to hit good? Are we going to hit like all these cool creatures that we could? Or are we going to just hit a bunch of Yotian Frontliners and Iron Apprentices? But I really enjoy this card. I think it's really good in a lot of creature decks where you can hit a bunch of small creatures and keep up the pressure to potentially eke out a win against a more controlling or removal based opponent. So that's our solutions to the previous deck. We had Over the Top in here as well, but Over the Top, such a situational draw, wasn't particularly well built around Over the Top, so I did not keep it in here. I would probably say you can get rid of Argoth, Sanctum of Nature. I just kept it in here because it was a cool land, I guess. You can create bear tokens, so that might help you in the long run, but we don't have, what's her name in here? We don't have Titania, so we can't actually trigger that combo. We're not going to be milling a bunch of lands normally, so probably not the best land to have in here. Probably want more untapped, or probably want forest in here. We have a bunch of just rare lands, nothing particularly special, or particularly scientific about the lands, I guess. All right, we'll jump into some games. I'm sorry that broke down took so long. Did actually manage, in the last video that I tried recording, we made it to Diamond while playing the deck, so that was exciting. I think that's the first time that I've made it to Diamond playing Standard. I used to play a ton of Historic, and so that's how I would rank up, yeah, we managed to make it to Diamond. Oh boy, this is quite the deck, or quite the hand. 4 lands, that's a pretty good start in terms of lands. Now the question is, are we going to top deck into a bunch more lands? We'll play Rockfall Vale here. We can play Teething Wurmlet and then Gallagreeters. Or maybe we play Gallagreeters. Yeah, we play Gallagreeters into Teething Wurmlet. That's the play. I'll go ahead and play this. The reason we played Gallagreeters into Teething Wurmlet is Teething Wurmlet can trigger Gallagreeters, and then Gallagreeters creates a treasure token, immediately triggering Teething Wurmlet. So it's a pretty good combo. Does our opponent Are they playing a domain deck is my question. I'm a little bit worried. Don't have 2 green sources, so that's a bit of a downside here. You play Korean Beast Caller into a tapped treasure token. Huh. I think I'm gonna go ahead and play Teething Wurmlet. I'm gonna try and keep this video relatively short, so that I don't blabber on. So we'll probably play 4 or 5 games maybe. Oh yeah, I remember somebody had this pet. I don't know if this pet is currently in the store, but somebody had this pet in like a previous game, and I didn't realize that if you click on this enough, it reaches like, or maybe I can't do it. Why isn't it working? If you click on it, yeah, there you go. Click on it and get it spinning fast enough, it like does some strange animation. We do have Jetmir here, so maybe just cast out Jetmir. But our opponent's playing an interesting deck. They got green, they got white, they got black, and they got blue. They just don't have red, so they're like 1 color off 5 mana. So what are we playing? It does not look like they're committed to domain. Are they a Legends deck? It doesn't really look like they're committed to Legends because they wouldn't fit a Restoration of Hyganjo and a Reckoner Bankbuster. So I think our opponent is really playing some kind of control strategy, which is not very fun for us. Luckily, they tapped out, so we have enough mana to go ahead, cast Korean Beast Caller, and cast Simian Simulacrum. Yeah, we'll create another treasure token. If we cast Jetmir next turn, we should be able to go back up to mana to cast Titania's Command the following turn. We'll create a +1/+1 counter. Put this on Grand Beast Caller. Go ahead, swing in for 5. This is the one thing with this deck. If the opponent doesn't do much for like 6 turns, they don't have like more than a handful of creatures. What are they? Okay. Huh. That's interesting. That's a soldier. So is our opponent playing like a weird soldiers mix? There is one soldier that I think in green is really good. It's a 2 mana 3/1. Oh, that's gonna hit our Korean Beast Caller. That's fine. We have Jetmir next turn, so that's pretty big. Create a treasure token to pump up. Yeah, we'll pay the life. It doesn't matter. Give a tap treasure token. That'll pump up our Teething Wurmlet. And I think that should be GG. Oh yeah. Is that enough damage? No, not quite enough. Our opponent though, calling the GG, so I'm gonna assume that they don't have a pretty good solution to here, but or they just feel like it's pretty over. I don't think they have a card to get them out of here. And we're gonna have a pretty big board with Titania's Command next turn. Jetmir, the partier. That's why I feel like he also fits well with the name Naya Party, because he himself is like Nexus of Revels. Isn't like the Cabaretti family like supposed to throw big? I'm not thinking of good adjectives. Big awesome parties. That's what I'll say. Alright, Titania's Command. This will definitely be lethal. Because Jetmir will also give our creatures trample. Though, they do have a counterspell. Ooh. Oh, no. They don't have a counterspell. My bad. We'll +1. And then 2 life. Oh, wait. I should have created the treasure token. It would have pumped the Teething Wurmlet, but it doesn't matter. This is definitely lethal. And our opponent packs it up. We actually got to cast Titania's Command. Last recording, I don't think we managed to cast Titania's Command. We either murdered them before, or like won before, or just didn't top deck into them. Let's keep the Naya party going. Isn't this card art? This is like a. I'm trying to remember what this card does. I think it's called like recommission, maybe. And then it returns like a mana value 3 or less, like creature or artifact, and if it's a something or something, it puts a +1/+1. I think. There's a lot of cards that return low cost creatures, like spells, low mana cost creatures or artifacts from the graveyard to the battlefield. Because there's also like one from Dominaria United, I think, that does that. Alright, we got Teething Wurmlet and Galagreeters. We'll go ahead and play Jetmir into Galagreeters, and then Teething Wurmlet, and then Vampire, maybe? Or we can actually just go Galagreeters into Welcome Vampire, into Teething Wurmlet. They have removal, though. There is one advantage to going ahead and playing nothing on turn 1 against black decks is they're probably going to try and cast something on turn 2, or like they might have something that I want to play. Is there any good black 2-drops though? Oh yeah, there's plenty. I don't know why I'm asking that question. Okay, well, what do we want to die? I should have played Jetmirs and then played a Teething Wurmlet. I'm trolling. We'll go play Galagreeters. It's gonna die. That's fine. They have. Wait, what? They had no instants for 2 black mana. Or they just had, like, turn pass on. That's strange. Sorcery Edicts. Okay. What is the right move then? I think this is the move. We lose some card draw with our Welcoming Vampire here potentially, but we don't want our Vampire just to be played and then die, so create 2 creatures so they can't remove both of them. They're probably, what is that card where it's like if you play a spell you need to either discard or take 5 life. They're probably one of those decks. Cut down. Again, removal tribal, not very fun kind of deck to play against. I will freely admit, quite lame. Alright, well, we can play a Welcoming Vampire here without too much fear because we have another one in hand, so we can keep drawing cards. This will hopefully get us out of Mr. Removal Tribal's hands here. We can play a Welcoming Vampire into a Teething Wurmlet, or we could play a Teething Wurmlet into a Simian Simulacrum. Though we might want to play a Welcoming Vampire into a Teething Wurmlet. Yeah. No. Fuck. Of course they have Shieldred, the game that we get our Welcoming Vampires. Okay, we need to hold up Seed of the Empire. That's 3 mana, so we'll go ahead and do this. Draw a card, lose 2 life. Please swing in with your Shieldred. Please be not very bright. I would love it. It'd make my day. Okay, next to combat, we can swing in with the Welcoming Vampire. We're only going to be able to, like, negate their freaking stupid Shieldred life gain every turn with our Welcoming Vampire, but they're probably going to kill it. Yep. Cut down. No, our opponent's not playing with cut down. I don't understand. Why is our opponent not playing with cut down? You're playing mono black. That card's amazing. You're playing with Hero's Downfall instead of cut down. And Death to the Kami. Wait, this is an instance. They did pass the turn that last turn. That first, like, turn. Or the second turn where they had 2 black mana and did nothing. Fuck. Bro, just play Shieldred, Gix's Command, Path to Peril, remove everything on the board besides your fucking Shieldred and win. So obnoxious. I hate it. What's that? You're dead? That's kind of funny. You drawed cards? You tried to actually, like, draw out of this fucking murder? Oh my god, that's kind of awkward. Can we actually kill this Shieldred before we die? If this was legendary, if we drew into a legendary creature, we still wouldn't have been able to kill it. Because this is 3 mana to kill it. Just... This is why you need to play removal in standard. If you don't play removal, you just might as well give up. It's so dumb. Yep, if we drew into another land instead of like several welcoming vampires into a Shieldred, if we had another land here, we would have actually been able to kill this because they would attack in with Shieldred. We'd hit it with the Iganja, it would block with the Simian Simulacrum, it would be dead. But nope. Nope, nope, nope. I don't think there's anything we can do. I mean, there's nothing to do here anyways, so we can just decode this. Streams of steel and oil. Cast it, I dare you. Would you believe it? If they didn't give it +1/+1 counters, we'd be able to kill it as well. Wait, does this kill? No, it doesn't. It has 7 toughness. It has 7 toughness. They thought giving a 4/5 death toucher 4 mana, giving it extra things was a reasonable idea. Like, what? What are they on? What were they on when they created that card? Like, we can hold back our welcoming vampire and then, like, block it and jump it again, but, like... we cast this, we draw a card, we die, and... Woo. I think this is, like, the only path forward, is we cast this. And then we chump, we draw, or actually, I think we might be dead before we actually get to find, or fully kill this Shieldred. Opponent not going to remove the welcoming vampire because they're smart. Yeah. And yeah, that's all they had to do is play removal tribal and play Shieldred. Ha ha ha. I'm not losing my mind. It's not like Shieldred is so fucking broken. There's pretty much no card that we can top deck it to into this point that will save us. We could also just top deck into nothing. The only card that potentially saves us here is Kayla's Reconstruction. We cast it for like 4 and top deck into like 3, or like 3 of those are like Gallagher Readers, and we gain a bunch of life and stuff. Like, that's pretty much the only option. Would be for a good top deck there. We could top deck into Titania's Command and cast like the double bears thing and stuff, and then potentially do something with that. But you guys are gonna love this. Watch this. Genius. They can't kill our creatures if we kill it before them. They cast Undying Malice on it. Bruh, they have Undying. Yep, this is literally removal tribal and Shieldred. It's all you have to do. Protection, a little bit of protection, and a shit ton of removal and Shieldred. I believe that. Maybe I'll make a deck. I'll try and do my best rendition of Broken Shieldred. Because I played like one deck with Shieldred on this channel. I've only played one deck with Shieldred, period. Because I just don't want to play Shieldred. It's so annoying. It irritates me too much. What the heck is this hand? I mean, sure. We'll just take it. We're not going to win this game because we're going to, like, bleed out thanks to just pain lands. Ooh. That's interesting. I'm interested in what our opponent's deck will be doing. Cast Genie Fae here, or we can cast Teething Wurmlet and Quirion Beast. Oh wait, we cast the Quirion Beast Caller first because it gains +1/+1s whenever we cast a creature spell. Okay, come on now. Ignore the fact that we've taken 3 damage from our lands. Go attack in. They're not going to want to block because they want to keep us Ilkor around because it helps to just. Sure. Fine, we'll put like 1 on each. Shouldn't make too much of a difference. If we top deck into another land, we can cast. Oh, that's a good card. That's a good card. Put on Quirion Beast Caller. If they have the exile removal, what is it called? Soul Partition? No. That's the new card from Brothers of Word. It's 1 generic 2 black, exile target creature or planeswalker. I can't remember it. We had cast Jetmir, I think. Yeah, we'll cast Jetmir here. Ow. Swinging with everything, I think. They're gonna block the 8/8 because, well, they don't want to take 8 damage. And they would die otherwise, I think. Because that'd be. Yeah, that would have been lethal. I guess we win. Quirion Beast Caller. It's big. We were very lucky there, though, that we got our Quirion Beast Caller into play. Like, multiple Quirion Beast Callers into play before it, like, one got removed. Or, like, another card into play before, another creature into play before the Quirion Beast Caller got removed. Because that can be terrible. If you're not playing creature heavy enough, or, like, the opponent just removes it when you have, like, a some +1/+1 counters on your Iron Apprentice or Quirion Beast Caller, and they remove it, and then you don't get to put those +1 counters on anything, and the card suddenly becomes a lot worse. This hand's intriguing. Well, we saw Quirion Beast Caller do work previously, so maybe this is a decent hand. Though Kayla's Reconstruction does not really work well with this, because again, it says crash creature, not when it enters the battlefield. So it's not exactly the best option. I'll cast this into this. Soldiers, okay. Soldiers. That's fine by me. I think we might actually be fine against soldiers. I think we might be, because we got Titania's Command, we got Kayla's Reconstruction. We just need them to not have too explosive a start. Okay, that's good with me. I mean, Iganjo works well for them because they can discard a soldier and then reanimate it, because a lot of soldiers are pretty low cost. But I think we're gonna hold back here. I think we have a better late game. They haven't taken any. They're only planes, so I think they're mono white. So we still Still in a good place. They maybe like to play with Kayla's. Okay, that is a bit of a problem. But maybe they like to play with Kayla's Reconstruction. That's another reason to play a bunch of planes. Okay, that's probably the end of the game for us. Because we can't keep up at all. Siege Veteran, really, really rough. And then, of course, this thing says Exile. So we don't get any +1 counters from our... Go play this Korean V-Scholar. Pump up this one. No attacks. We should have attacked in. Offer a trade for their Siege Veteran. A bit of a mistake. This creates spirits, not soldiers. So that's at least good for us. Brutal Cathar, another great way to exile things. I take everything I said back. This deck's all full into soldiers. No blocks. We'll get to Kayla's Reconstruction here shortly. If we can just survive another turn. Which maybe we will. They probably put the counter from the Siege Veteran on itself and swing in. Maybe. I don't know. Probably should have traded the Siege Veteran. That's... You're trolling. Dude, just keep going aggro. I mean, I guess if I have like a bunch of removal, but I'm not a deck that plays removal. Put it on Korean Beast Collar, because if Korean Beast Collar dies... Ooh, we're gonna cast... What do we do? This is... You know what? We'll do this. And then we can't cast that for anything, but... Hey. 3-1 Vigilance. That's a synergy. Now we get a bunch of 3-1s every single time they choose not to go in. Or they choose not to kill us. How do we do this? We can block with Korean Beast Collar and the dog, maybe? That kills it. I don't think this is what they wanted, but... Because Korean Beast Collar, we can just redistribute +1 counters. Put it on both these. Don't really care how it gets distributed. Oh, we only had 3. Maybe put one here, put one here. Top deck into a land? Ooh, okay, so now we got good options for cards to trigger. So we can go ahead, either cast Titania's Command, pump up the board. I think we cast Kayla's Reconstruction and then Titania's Command the next turn. 1, 2, 3. Teething Wurmlet, Citizen's Crowbar, this. 2 counters on Simulacrum, gain life, Vigilance, 4-2 Vigilancer. Who? Are we doing it? Are we doing it? Are we overcoming the soldiers? If they double trigger this Moonrage Brute, I will be very sad. Nope, they're not going to be able to do it. Alright, Titania's Command. Titania's Command will pump our board like crazy. Ah, no, they really drawed into the one card that would trigger their Moonrage Brute. That's tragic. That's so tragic. Oh, that's so freaking annoying. Sure, get rid of Genie Fae, I don't care. How many cards? 2? 3 in our graveyard. Yep, that's not the option. It was the only option. We can just wait around and wait until we die from the attack in the air. I think that sounds like a good plan. I believe this deck actually works quite well. Because they can reanimate Sanctuary Wardens or Siege Veterans or Brutal Cathars. All of those cards are very high value just sitting on the battlefield. Surprised they're playing Thalia. I mean, I guess most of it. No, they're playing a fair amount of non. They must only have like 1 or 2 copies of Thalia, I would have to believe. We got 1 use out of our Welcoming Vampire. Brutal Cathar gets to end the game. Oh my god. Hold up. Hold up. No way. Go, team, go. Go, 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 go. Oh my god. If we win, I'm gonna be blown away. I'm gonna be so blown away. They gotta do a lot of blocking. Yeah. They surrendered. Oh my goodness. Oh. Yeah, Jetmir's crazy. Maybe we need more Jetmir. We beat soldiers. That was the best top deck we could have had. And we couldn't have top decked it any sooner, like any later. Like that Wandering Vampire drew us the 1 card we need to get that 1 turn earlier so that we could actually get it before the Sanctuary Warden killed us in the air. Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Might even just end the video there. I think, you know what, we're gonna wrap up the video there. It's already 40 minutes long, so probably because I spent way too much time breaking down the deck. But I hope you really enjoyed the deck. You can see potentially some of its weaknesses. Though I think it's a lot of fun. Like the synergies themselves are a lot of fun. I think you can also tune around like what cards you really enjoy. So like maybe you really enjoyed Ginny Faye going off. We saw like the amount of work that Ginny Faye put in that last game. Incredible. She was turning our like Baird tokens into actual like 3/1 dogs with vigilance, which are real threats there. They're really good blockers, they're really good attackers. And then we saw Titania's command go off, like pump up our entire board. We saw Jetmir go off, make our entire board get double strike, vigilance, trample. So they really had to block basically with everything they had to stand a chance of surviving and winning that game. I think if they threw everything in front of our creatures and at least let the blocks go through, it would have been funny. But I think we probably had enough power to overpower them. We also saw like Teething Wurmlet go off, gain us those few points of life that kind of keep us around, especially when we have so many pain lands. We saw the value of like Simian Simulacrum coming in, pumping up particular creatures. We saw Korean Beast Caller transferring its +1/+1 counters to keep Baird going was very important there. The Welcoming Vampire again drew us the card that we needed to win the game. I don't know if we ended up using Citizen's Crowbar for anything besides just blowing up our Simian Simulacrum when we were about to lose that game. So do I think it's probably the best deck in the meta? No. You probably have better options, but I think it's really fun if you really like some of these cards. And I think it works really well with Baird. So I hope you enjoyed Naya Party. If you did, feel free to leave a like on the video. Subscribe, it helps me out a ton. You can also follow me at McFluffy52 on Twitch if you ever want to try and catch me streaming live. I usually stream me making the decks / recordings. So can always catch me there. And have a nice morning, evening, afternoon, wherever and whenever you're watching. Ciao.